The giant space station spun slowly around a dying red star that cast strange shadows across the metal walls. Admiral Hyun-woo walked through the long corridors that led to the main hall, where beings from across the galaxy waited to discuss the greatest threat they had ever faced. He wore a simple blue uniform with no fancy decorations or shiny medals like the other species loved to display. His black hair was cut short and neat, and his dark eyes showed no fear, even though he knew what was coming. The human was alone among thousands of aliens who saw his people as nothing more than a new species that had barely learned to travel between stars. The great hall was enormous, with a curved ceiling that showed the stars outside. Rows of seats stretched in all directions, filled with creatures that looked like nightmares or dreams, depending on how you saw them. Some had tentacles instead of arms, others glowed with their own light, a few looked almost human except for their blue skin or extra eyes. At the front of the hall stood the speaking platform, where Admiral Hyun-woo would soon face questions and mockery from beings whose civilizations were older than human recorded history. The air smelled of strange chemicals and recycled atmosphere, while alien voices created a constant background noise of clicks, whistles, and sounds no human throat could make. Ambassador Yujin stood near the back of the hall, watching everything with careful eyes. She was young for such an important job, but her mind was sharp, and she understood alien politics better than most humans. Her fingers moved quickly over a small device that showed readings from their ship, which waited in the docking bay like a silent promise, the Zephyrion. Ambassador rose from his seat, and the hall grew quiet. His body looked like it was made from living crystal that caught the light and threw it back in rainbow colors. When he spoke, his voice sounded like glass breaking in a musical way that somehow formed words everyone could understand. "We are here to discuss the Void Swarm," he said, and his crystal face turned toward Hyun-woo. "This threat has destroyed entire star systems and consumed civilizations that were old when my people first reached the stars. They moved through space like a plague, eating everything in their path and leaving only empty darkness behind." The hall filled with nervous sounds as different species made their versions of worried noises. The Kovron war chief, who looked like a giant bear with 6 arms and armor made from some kind of black metal, slammed one massive fist on the table in front of him, making a sound like thunder. "My people have fought the Void Swarm for 300 years, he growled in a voice that seemed to come from deep underground. "We have lost 17 colony worlds and countless ships to their hunger. They cannot be stopped, only delayed. They cannot be reasoned with, only fought. And now they turn their attention toward the human home world." Admiral Hyun-woo stepped forward and walked slowly toward the speaking platform. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor, while hundreds of alien eyes followed his movement. Some species whispered among themselves, using words he could not understand, but their tone made their meaning clear. The human ship Souls Pride sat in the docking bay, looking small and ordinary compared to the massive warships that belonged to the other species. It was silver-colored and smooth, with no visible weapons or armor that the aliens could see from the outside. It looked like nothing more than an advanced transport vessel. The luminary delegate, who appeared to be made from pure golden light, flickered in what might have been amusement or confusion. These beings were ancient and peaceful, and had never been known to show strong emotions about anything. Their light pulsed as they spoke without making any sound that reached normal ears. "We have assembled the greatest fleet in galactic history," the luminary said, their words appearing directly in everyone's mind. 50,000 ships from every major civilization, armed with weapons that can crack planets and shields that have never been broken. Yet humanity sends one vessel to face a threat that numbers in the millions. Laughter began somewhere in the crowd and spread like fire through dry grass. The sound was strange because so many different species were making it. Some hissed, others made clicking sounds, and a few created musical tones that rose and fell like songs. The result was a symphony of mockery that filled the great hall. The Aquarian representative, who lived in a tank of liquid that smelled like ocean storms, spoke through a device that translated their underwater sounds into words. "The humans must believe their ship contains some secret weapon," they said, with bubbles rising around their fish-like body. "Perhaps they think surprise alone will save them from destruction." More laughter echoed through the hall, while Admiral Hyun-woo reached the speaking platform and turned to face the assembled representatives, he stood straight and calm with his hands behind his back, looking out at thousands of beings who saw him as either foolish or insane. His expression never changed, even when the laughter grew louder. Ambassador Eugen moved closer to the front of the hall, her device showing her information about every species present. She had studied their languages, cultures, and military capabilities for years. Preparing for this moment, her heart beat fast, but her face remained calm as she watched her superior face the mockery of the galaxy. The council leader floated above the crowd, looking like a jellyfish made from stars and cosmic dust. This ancient being was older than most civilizations and had seen the rise and fall of countless species. Their voice, when they spoke, reached into every mind present, carrying the weight of eons. The void swarm approaches the Terran system, they said with words that seemed to come from the space between stars. Our intelligence indicates they will reach Earth in 7 standard days. They move with purpose and hunger, consuming everything in their path as they have for millions of years. If the human ship fails, we will focus our defenses on more strategic locations. The meaning was clear: Earth would be abandoned to its fate if humanity could not prove they deserved help. The other species had already written off the human homeworld as lost and were making plans to divide up human territory among themselves after the void swarm finished their work. Admiral Hyun Woo finally spoke, his voice carrying clearly through the hall without any electronic amplification. We understand the situation, he said simply. Humanity appreciates the Council's concern. We will handle this threat ourselves. His words were quiet, but something in his tone made some of the laughter stop. A few aliens looked at him more carefully, trying to understand why he seemed so confident when facing impossible odds. The humans showed no fear, no anger, and no desperation, just calm certainty that made no sense given the circumstances. The reptilian overlord, whose species had conquered half their galaxy before joining the Council, rose from his seat. His scales were dark green, and his eyes glowed red in the dim light. When he spoke, his forked tongue flicked out between words that dripped with contempt. Your confidence is admirable, human, but confidence does not stop. The void swarm, the reptilians, have weapons that can boil oceans and armor that has never been pierced. Yet we would not face this enemy with less than 1,000 ships. How do you expect to succeed where we would struggle? The hall grew quiet as everyone waited for Hyun Woo's answer. He looked around at the faces and forms surrounding him, seeing the mixture of curiosity, mockery, and pity in their expressions. These beings had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, and they could not imagine how a young species like humanity could have developed anything they had not already tried. Sometimes, he said quietly, the best weapon is the one your enemy never sees coming. His words hung in the air like a challenge or a promise. The aliens looked at each other with expressions ranging from confusion to amusement. None of them could imagine what the humans might have hidden that could make a difference against the void swarm. As the meeting continued, species after species offered hollow wishes for good luck while clearly expecting to divide human territory after Earth's fall. The void swarm had never been stopped, never even slowed down significantly. They consumed everything in their path, turning entire solar systems into empty space, filled only with dark energy that ate light itself. Admiral Hyun Woo and Ambassador Eugen walked through the station's corridors toward their ship while alien beings moved aside to let them pass. Some pointed and whispered, others ignored them completely, treating them like a curiosity that would soon be extinct. Admiral Eugen said quietly, they think we're going to die. They think we're fools who don't understand what we're facing. Let them think that. Hyun Woo replied, his hand resting on a small device at his belt. Sometimes the best victories come from being underestimated. The galaxy is about to learn that humanity has been preparing for this moment longer than they realized. The Soul's Pride waited in the docking bay, looking peaceful and harmless, while around it the greatest fleet in galactic history prepared for a war they expected to fight without human help. None of them suspected that everything was about to change. The Soul's Pride moved through the endless darkness of space, like a silver arrow aimed at the heart of destruction. Captain Minho sat in his command chair, watching the stars slowly change position as his ship traveled toward the edge of human territory where death waited in the form of 1,000,000 alien vessels. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of electronics and the Occasional beep from monitoring systems. Around him 50 of humanity's best and brightest worked at their stations, preparing for a battle that would determine whether Earth lived or died. Their faces showed concentration and determination, but no fear because they knew what their ship could really do. Lieutenant Yunji bent over her sensor console watching readings. That made her heart race. The long-range scanners were picking up signals from the approaching void swarm, and what they showed was terrifying. "Captain," she said without looking up, "we are detecting the first scout ships from the enemy fleet. They are still 3 days away, but the size readings are incredible. Each scout vessel is larger than our biggest space stations." The main screen flickered to life, showing dark shapes moving against the starfield. The void swarm ships looked nothing like the clean metal vessels that most civilizations built. Instead, they appeared to be alive, with hulls that pulsed like beating hearts and appendages that moved through space, like tentacles reaching for prey. Their surfaces seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making them appear as moving holes in space itself. Dia Sumin studied the energy readings from her science station. Her face was pale, but her voice remained steady. "Captain, I'm reading the same energy signatures we detected from previous void swarm attacks on other worlds. These ships are not just mechanical constructs. They appear to be biological technology merged with something else. Something we do not fully understand." The ships on the screen moved with an organic grace that was both beautiful and terrifying. They did not fly through space so much as swim through it like massive predators hunting in an ocean of stars. Each vessel was covered with spikes and tentacles that writhed constantly as if tasting the vacuum around them. Captain Minho opened a communication channel to the engine room. "Engineer Dongwook, how are our power systems holding up? Are we ready for what is coming?" The reply came through the ship's speakers with a slight metallic echo. "All systems are running at optimal parameters, Captain. The core is stable, and we have full power available to all ship functions. Just give us the word, and we will show these aliens what human engineering can accomplish." Minho studied the tactical display that showed the approaching swarm. Intelligence reports indicated there were over 800,000 ships of various sizes, all heading directly toward Earth like a plague of mechanical locusts. The largest vessels could crack planets in half, while the smaller ones would strip away everything valuable before moving on to the next target. Navigator Haiwan worked at her station, plotting courses and calculating intercept points on a three-dimensional map that floated in the air above her console. "Captain, if we continue on our current heading, we will meet the main body of the swarm in approximately 67 hours. Should I begin plotting evasive maneuvers to avoid direct confrontation?" Negative, Minho replied firmly. "Hold our current course. We go straight at them. No evasion, no retreat. We meet them head-on and show them what one human ship can do against impossible odds." The crew exchanged glances, but no one questioned the order they had trained for this moment for years, preparing for something the galaxy had never seen before. Each person on the ship knew exactly what their role would be when the fighting began, and they were ready to play their part in humanity's greatest gamble. Communications Officer Taeyong received an incoming transmission from Earth. "Captain, Admiral Hyunwoo sends his personal regards. He says to remember what we are fighting for, and that all of humanity is counting on our success." He paused, reading more of the message. "Also, sir, we are receiving thousands of personal messages from Earth citizens, saying goodbye, telling us they are proud, asking us to save their families and loved ones." Minho nodded solemnly, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Through the ship's windows, stars continued to twinkle peacefully, giving no sign of the approaching darkness that threatened to consume everything humans had ever built. In less than 3 days, this quiet region of space would become a battlefield that would determine the fate of not just humanity but possibly every civilization in the galaxy. The void swarm had never been defeated in their million-year reign of terror. They moved from system to system, consuming planets and turning entire solar systems into empty regions of space filled only with dark energy. Every species that had tried to stop them had failed, and most had been completely destroyed for their efforts. Yet here was one human ship moving steadily toward a confrontation with the greatest military force the galaxy had ever known. The Soul's Pride looked small and insignificant compared to the approaching enemy fleet, but appearances could be deceiving. and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity had secrets of their own. All stations prepare for combat operations, Minho announced over the ship's communication system. This is what we have trained for, this is what we were built for. In 3 days we will meet the Void Swarm in battle, and we will show the galaxy what one human ship can accomplish when properly motivated. The crew began their final preparations, checking weapon systems, testing sensors, and running diagnostics on every piece of equipment aboard the ship. Each person knew that failure meant not just their own death, but the destruction of everything they had ever loved. Earth would fall and humanity would be wiped from the stars like they had never existed, but failure was not an option. The soul's pride carried more than just weapons and shields. She carried the hopes and dreams of an entire species, the accumulated knowledge of humanity's greatest scientists and engineers, and something else, something the Void Swarm had never encountered. The 40R Sumin looked up from her readings. Captain, the energy signatures from the approaching scouts are growing stronger. They will be in weapons range soon, and when they attack us, they will expect us to be destroyed like every other ship that has faced them. Let them expect that, Minho replied with a slight smile. Let them think we are just another victim waiting to be consumed. When they realize the truth, it will be too late for them to warn the main fleet lieutenant. Yunji called out new readings. Captain, I am detecting additional movement from the main swarm. It appears they are changing formation, possibly preparing for a coordinated attack on our solar system. The timeline may be accelerating. Good, Minho said quietly. The sooner they come, the sooner we can end this threat once and for all. Engineer Dongwook, are the special systems ready for activation? Yes, Captain, came the reply from the engine room. All Phoenix protocol systems are standing by awaiting your command. The moment those alien ships fire on us, we will be ready to show them the true meaning of human determination. The Soul's Pride continued her steady course toward the approaching enemy while her crew made final preparations for a battle that would echo through galactic history. The ship looked peaceful and harmless from the outside, but hidden within her hull were systems that could turn the Void Swarm's own power against them. Soon, the galaxy would understand why humanity had sent only one ship to face impossible odds. Space exploded into chaos as the first Void Swarm scouts encountered the Soul's Pride in a region of emptiness that had been peaceful for millions of years. The alien ships were even more terrifying when seen up close, their dark hulls pulsing with veins of sickly green light that seemed to eat the stars around them. Tentacles hundreds of meters long whipped through the vacuum, while weapons charged with energy that made nearby cosmic dust glow with unnatural colors. Captain Minho sat calmly in his command chair, watching 12 scout ships, each one 10 times larger than his vessel, move to surround them like predators circling wounded prey. The alien vessels moved with fluid grace that was both beautiful and horrifying, their organic hulls breathing in space as if they were living creatures rather than constructed machines. Steady as she goes, he called out to his crew, watching as his people worked with quiet efficiency at their stations. Let them get close, let them think. We are easy prey, just another helpless victim waiting to be consumed by their hunger. The largest scout ship fired, first sending a beam of concentrated darkness that seemed to devour light itself as it traveled through space. The weapon struck the Soul's Pride directly, and alarms began sounding throughout the ship as energy readings spiked beyond normal parameters. The beam carried enough destructive force to vaporize a small moon, but something unexpected happened. Lieutenant Yunji checked her readings and looked up in amazement, her eyes wide with disbelief. Captain Shields absorbed the impact completely. Hull integrity remains at 100%. All defensive systems are functioning normally. Impossible, whispered Dr. Sumin from her science station. That weapon should have turned us into scattered atoms. I am reading energy levels that could crack a planet in half. Yet our ship took the hit like it was nothing more than a gentle breeze. More ships joined the attack surrounding the human vessel with beams of destroying light and waves of crushing force that could turn normal matter into cosmic dust. The Soul's Pride shook under the assault as multiple weapons struck her hull simultaneously, but her structure held firm. While her shields began to glow brighter with each successive hit, the alien weapons were designed to break down molecular bonds and convert matter into the dark energy that the Void Swarm used to fuel their endless expansion. Each beam that struck the human ship should have reduced it to component atoms, but instead the soul's pride seemed to be absorbing the attacks and growing. Stronger engineer Dongwook's voice came over the communication system, excitement clear in his tone despite the battle raging around them. Captain, the absorption systems are working even better than our simulations predicted. We are collecting their energy and storing it in the auxiliary power cores. Energy levels are climbing rapidly with each attack on the main screen. The Void Swarm ships began changing their formation, moving closer to the stubborn human vessel that refused to die according to their expectations. They had expected the soul's pride to be destroyed in the first few seconds of combat. But instead it sat motionless in space, taking everything they could throw at it like a rock enduring ocean waves. The alien ships were clearly confused by what they were witnessing. Tentacles writhed in what might have been anger or frustration, while biomechanical weapons charged and fired again and again. Each blast should have been fatal, but the human ship continued to exist as if their most powerful weapons were completely ineffective communications. Officer Taeyang picked up transmissions between the alien vessels using equipment designed to intercept and translate. Enemy communications. Captain, I am monitoring their battlefield chatter. They are calling for additional reinforcements because they cannot understand why we are still intact. Their tactical computers have no explanation for what they are. Observing Navigator Haiwan monitored the surrounding space while calculating the positions of incoming enemies. Sir, more ships are approaching fast. I count 47 additional vessels, including 3 of the heavy destroyer-class ships. They are moving to completely surround us in a sphere formation. Perfect, Minho replied with the first smile he had shown since the battle began. The more ships that attack us, the better our response will be when the time comes. He turned to his weapons officer. Sergeant Jinwoo, are the primary offensive systems ready for deployment? Jinwoo was a young man who had spent years training for this exact moment, checking and rechecking his targeting computers while alien weapons pounded their ship. All weapon systems show green status. Captain, targeting computers have achieved lock on all hostile vessels in range. We can begin our counterattack on your direct command. The Void Swarm ships increased their assault, pouring more destructive energy into their attack than they had used to destroy entire space stations belonging to other civilizations. The soul's pride continued to absorb it, all her systems growing more powerful with each passing second, while her crew worked with calm precision. Alien weapons were feeding power directly into the human ship's special systems, turning what should have been a quick execution into an opportunity for the soul's pride to charge her own weapons using energy stolen from her attackers. It was like trying to drown a sponge or burn down a fire. Dr. Sumin called out from her science station. Captain, I am detecting something unusual. The alien ships are beginning to show signs of power drain from their weapon systems. It appears they are putting everything they have into this sustained attack rather than conserving energy for future battles. Good, Minho replied. Let them exhaust their reserves while we grow stronger. When they are weak and confused, we will show them what human engineering can really accomplish. The Void Swarm had never encountered anything like the soul's pride in their million years of conquest. Every other ship they had faced had either fled in terror or been destroyed within moments of contact, but this strange human vessel seemed to be immune to their most powerful weapons and was somehow growing stronger with each attack. On the bridge of the largest scout ship, biomechanical computers tried to process what they were experiencing. Their data cores contained information about every known species in the galaxy and their military capabilities, but nothing in their records explained how one small ship could withstand concentrated fire from multiple Void Swarm vessels. The alien commanders began to realize they were facing something completely outside their understanding. The human ship was not just surviving their attack, it was thriving under the assault like a plant absorbing sunlight. Energy readings from the soul's pride were climbing beyond anything they had seen from a single vessel. More ships arrived to join the battle, bringing the total number of attackers to nearly 100 vessels, all focused on destroying one stubborn human ship. The concentration of firepower was enough to sterilize a planet, yet the soul's pride continued to float peacefully in space, absorbing every joule of energy they could produce. Captain Minho watched his crew work with quiet pride knowing they were about to change galactic history forever. The moment was approaching when they would reveal humanity's greatest secret and show the Void Swarm why they should have left Earth alone. All stations prepare for Phoenix activation. He announced over the ship's communication system, "We have absorbed enough energy to power our homeworld for centuries. Now we return it to sender with interest." The soul's pride was ready to reveal her true nature. The moment of truth had arrived. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the soul's pride, looking around at his crew who had spent years preparing for this single instant in time. Outside, nearly 100 Void Swarm ships continued their relentless assault, pouring destruction into what they believed was a helpless human vessel, but they were about to learn how wrong they were. All stations, this is the Captain Minho announced over the ship's communication system, his voice carrying to every corner of the vessel. Prepare to engage the Phoenix Protocol. This is not a drill, I repeat. Phoenix Protocol is now active. Authorization code 77 Alpha 9. Throughout the ship, crew members moved to their battle stations with practiced precision. In the engine room, engineer Dongwook placed his hand on a biometric scanner that glowed red, then blue, then brilliant white as it recognized his genetic pattern. Phoenix Core coming online, Captain. All stored energy is ready for immediate release. Awaiting your final command. The Phoenix Core was humanity's greatest scientific achievement, a device that could absorb any form of energy and convert it into pure destructive force. For 20 years, the best minds on Earth had worked in secret developing technology that could turn the Void Swarm's own weapons against them. Dr. Sumin monitored readings from her science station, her eyes wide with amazement as she watched power levels climb beyond anything they had tested. Captain, we have absorbed enough energy to illuminate an entire star system. The conversion systems are operating at peak efficiency. All safety protocols are showing green status. The Void Swarm ships outside continued their attack, unaware that each blast they fired was making their target more dangerous. Every beam of dark energy that struck the soul's pride was being collected, stored, and transformed into something that would soon be turned back on them with devastating effect. Sergeant Jinwoo prepared his weapons control systems, watching as targeting computers locked onto each enemy vessel with mathematical precision. Captain, all Phoenix weapons are fully charged and ready for immediate deployment. I have confirmed target locks on every hostile ship in range. The soul's pride had been designed from the beginning to look harmless and unremarkable. Her hull appeared to be simple metal, but hidden beneath the surface were weapon systems that had never been tested in actual combat. The ship was essentially a trap waiting for the perfect moment to spring on the main screen. The Void Swarm ships continued their coordinated assault. Their dark hulls were beginning to dim as they poured more and more power into destroying the stubborn human ship. Some of the smaller vessels were starting to drift aimlessly, their energy reserves nearly depleted from the sustained attack. Minho walked to the center of the bridge, feeling the weight of human history on his shoulders. For 3 years we have let the galaxy think we were weak, he said, his voice carrying to every member of his crew. We have allowed them to believe that humans were nothing special, just another young species that got lucky with space travel. They do not know about the Phoenix Project. They do not understand that we have spent decades studying their weapons, learning how to capture their energy and turn it into our own power. They think this is just another easy victory, another civilization about to be consumed. Lieutenant Ng called out from her sensor station. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting the main swarm approaching our position. I am reading over 800,000 ships heading directly toward us. They will arrive in approximately 6 hours. Perfect timing, Minho replied. He returned to his command chair and placed his hand on a control that had been protected by a reinforced cover. All crew prepare for Phoenix ignition. May our ancestors guide our aim, and may the galaxy remember this day. The soul's pride began to transform before the amazed eyes of the alien attackers. Her hull, which had appeared simple and unremarkable, started to glow with internal fire as hidden systems came online. Panels slid away to reveal weapons that had been concealed beneath her outer skin. The absorbed energy from thousands of alien attacks began flowing through systems designed specifically for this moment. Phoenix Core at maximum sustainable power. Dongwook reported from the engine room. All energy Conversion systems are operating within acceptable parameters. We are ready for full release on your command, Captain. Human ship no longer looked helpless, or ordinary energy flowed through channels carved into her hull, creating patterns of light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Her appearance shifted from that of a simple transport vessel to something that looked like a weapon designed by gods Jin Wu. You may fire when ready, Minho said quietly, his finger hovering over the final activation switch. The young weapons officer took a deep breath, feeling the responsibility of his entire species resting on his shoulders. He had trained for this moment since he was old enough to understand what the Void Swarm represented. Now the time for training was over. Firing all weapons, he announced, pressing the activation control. What happened next would be remembered across the galaxy for thousands of years. The soul's pride did not simply shoot back at her attackers. She became a star made of pure destruction. Beams of energy, brighter than suns and hotter than the cores of planets, erupted from weapon systems all across her hull. Each beam found its target with perfect accuracy, striking Void Swarm ships at their weakest points with energy that had been stolen from their own weapons and amplified beyond their wildest nightmares. The alien vessels, which had consumed entire civilizations, began to disintegrate under the human counterattack. The dark hulls that had seemed so threatening moments before cracked and split like eggshells, spilling strange organic matter into space. Ships that had been attacking with confidence suddenly found themselves being torn apart by weapons powered by their own energy. The largest scout ship tried to retreat, but a phoenix beam followed it across space, moving faster than light itself. The alien vessel simply ceased to exist, converted into particles of light and heat that spread outward in an expanding sphere of destruction. One by one, the Void Swarm ships were eliminated, their forms dissolving under the assault of weapons they had inadvertently charged with their own attacks. In less than 30 seconds, nearly 100 enemy vessels had been completely destroyed, leaving nothing but glowing particles drifting through space. The soul's pride floated peacefully in the aftermath, surrounded by the scattered remains of what had been a significant Void Swarm force. Her hull still glowed with residual energy while her crew worked to assess the results of their first real combat test. Captain Tae-young reported, "We are receiving priority transmissions from the Galactic Council. They want to know what just happened here. Our sensors show they have observation ships monitoring this region. Tell them," Minho replied with satisfaction, "that they have just witnessed the beginning of the end for the Void Swarm. And prepare a message for the main alien fleet. Let them know that one human ship is waiting for them." News of the impossible victory spread across the galaxy faster than the speed of light itself, using quantum communication networks that connected every major civilization in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. Thousands of alien representatives watched the recorded battle footage in stunned silence, unable to believe what their sensors had captured. The images showed the soul's pride floating peacefully in space, surrounded by the scattered glowing remains of what had been nearly 100 Void Swarm vessels. Energy readings from the battle site were beyond anything in galactic records, showing power levels that should have been impossible for a single ship to generate. Admiral Hyun Woo stood before the council assembly, no longer the ignored human representative who had been mocked just days before. Now he was the center of attention, as thousands of beings stared at him with expressions ranging from amazement to fear to something approaching religious awe. The same alien leaders who had laughed at humanity's single ship now struggled to understand how their fundamental assumptions about warfare and technology had been proven completely wrong. The Void Swarm had been the galaxy's greatest nightmare for over 1,000,000 years, and no civilization had ever managed to destroy even a single one of their ships. The Zephyrian ambassador, his crystal skin now dim with shock, was the first to find his voice. "This is impossible," he said, his words sounding like breaking glass. Our most advanced sensors recorded that human ship absorbing enough destructive energy to crack a planet in half. How did it not only survive but fight back with even greater force? Ambassador Yujin stepped forward, carrying a data tablet filled with technical readings and scientific analysis. "The Phoenix Protocol is humanity's answer to the Void Swarm threat," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the Great Hall. "For 20 years we have studied every attack, analyzed every weapon signature. learned exactly how their technology functions. We discovered that the key to defeating them was not to fight their power, but to use it against them. She continued, the soul's pride was designed from the beginning to absorb enemy energy, convert it to our own specifications, and return it with devastating effect. The Corvan War chief, still struggling to process what he had witnessed, growled in confusion. But the engineering challenges alone should have made this impossible. The energy requirements, the structural stresses, the conversion systems. No single vessel could contain such technology. You are correct, Admiral Hyan Wu replied calmly. No normal ship could carry that much firepower or withstand that level of energy absorption, so we built a ship that does not need to carry weapons in the traditional sense. The soul's pride takes the enemy's own power, stores it safely, and sends it back amplified beyond their ability to defend against. On the main display, tactical recordings showed the battle from multiple angles, captured by observation ships that had been positioned at safe distances. The footage clearly showed Void Swarm vessels firing everything they possessed at the human ship, followed by the devastating counterattack that had annihilated the entire enemy force. The council leader, the ancient being of living starlight, spoke with a voice that seemed to come from the space between stars. In all our records spanning millions of years and countless civilizations, no species has ever successfully turned the Void Swarm's power against them. They consume energy, they do not release it. How did you solve this fundamental problem? Dr. Sumin, who had been brought from the Soul's Pride specifically to explain the science, activated a holographic display showing the internal structure of the Phoenix core. The key was understanding that the Void Swarm does not simply use energy, they transform it into something else. She said their weapons convert normal matter into a specific type of dark energy that breaks down molecular bonds and disrupts the fundamental forces that hold atoms together. She continued, we learned to reverse that exact process, taking their dark energy and converting it back into pure light and electromagnetic force. The scientific implications were staggering. The humans had not only solved the mystery of Void Swarm technology, but had turned it into a weapon system that grew more powerful with each enemy attack. It was like discovering how to make fire burn water, or teaching gravity to push instead of pull. Throughout the Great Hall, alien representatives whispered among themselves in hundreds of different languages. Species that had considered humanity barely worth diplomatic recognition were now recalculating their entire understanding of human scientific and military capabilities. The luminary delegate, a being of pure golden light, flickered with what seemed like approval. Your achievement is remarkable beyond measure. They said, their words appearing directly in every mind present. But your ship still faces the main swarm. 800,000 vessels approach your solar system. Even with this Phoenix technology, can one ship truly face such overwhelming numbers? Admiral Han Wu smiled with quiet confidence. That is exactly what we intend to find out. The Soul's Pride was built for this exact purpose. Every system, every component, every member of her crew has been prepared for the battle that is coming. The implications of his words sent ripples of amazement through the assembled delegates. If the humans were correct, if their single ship could actually defeat the entire Void Swarm, then everything would change. The balance of power in the galaxy would shift dramatically, and humanity would suddenly become one of the most important civilizations in known space. The Aquarian representative spoke from their liquid-filled tank. Assuming your ship succeeds, what are humanity's intentions? Will you use this technology to expand your territory, to conquer other species, to establish an empire built on superior firepower? We will use our technology to defend ourselves and our allies. Han Wu replied firmly, humanity has no desire for conquest or domination. We simply want to live in peace and contribute to galactic civilization. But we will not allow anyone to threaten our existence or the existence of other peaceful species. His words carried the weight of absolute conviction. The aliens could sense that he was telling the truth. Humanity was not interested in becoming galactic conquerors, but they were clearly prepared to defend themselves with devastating effectiveness. The reptilian overlord, whose species had built one of the largest military forces in the galaxy, leaned forward with obvious interest. If your ship defeats the main swarm, would humanity be willing to share this Phoenix technology with other species? Many civilizations would pay any price for weapons that could defend against Future threats that decision will be made by our leaders on Earth. Eugen replied diplomatically, but humanity believes in cooperation and mutual defense. We are not interested in being the galaxy's only hope against future dangers, the meeting continued. For hours as alien scientists tried to understand the principles behind human technology while military leaders calculated how this development would affect their strategic planning, the galaxy had suddenly become a very different place, and everyone was scrambling to adapt. As the session finally ended, Admiral Hyanwu prepared to return to his ship to oversee the final preparations for the coming battle. The fate of Earth, and possibly the entire galaxy, would be decided in the next few hours. When the Soul's Pride faced the full might of the Void Swarm, the galaxy would be watching and waiting to see if one human ship could accomplish what seemed impossible. The main Void Swarm filled space like a living nightmare, stretching across millions of kilometers in a formation that blocked out entire starfields. 800,000 ships moved in perfect coordination toward Earth, each vessel pulsing with the same dark energy that had destroyed countless civilizations over the past million years. Their collective power was beyond imagination, enough to crack worlds and extinguish stars with casual ease. The smallest ships in the swarm were larger than human cities, while the largest could consume entire moons and process them into fuel for their endless expansion across the galaxy. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching the approaching armada through sensors that showed the true scale of what they faced. His ship looked impossibly small against the vast enemy fleet, like a single candle flame trying to hold back an ocean of darkness. But appearances, as the galaxy was finally learning, could be very deceiving. The Soul's Pride hung in space between the swarm and Earth, looking peaceful and harmless, while containing technology that was about to change the course of galactic history forever. Captain Lieutenant Yunji reported from her sensor station, her voice steady. Despite the magnitude of what they were facing, the main swarm has spread into full attack formation. I am reading ships of every known class: destroyers, dreadnoughts, world eaters, and 3 vessels at the center that are larger than anything in our databases. Dr. Sumin studied her readings with growing excitement rather than fear. Captain, the energy signatures from those massive command ships are beyond our previous measurements. If we can get them to focus their fire on us, we will have enough absorbed power to illuminate half the galaxy. The thought was staggering. The Void Swarm command ships were so powerful that their weapons could destroy entire solar systems, yet the Soul's Pride was designed to absorb that energy and turn it back on them with even greater force. It was the ultimate expression of using an enemy's strength against them. Engineer Dongwook's voice came over the communication system from deep within the ship. Phoenix Core is ready for maximum energy absorption. Captain, all systems have been expanded to handle the increased power loads we expect from this engagement. The auxiliary storage cores are standing by. Navigator Hai-1 worked at her station, calculating the swarm's approach vector and estimating time to contact Sir. At current speed, the lead ships will be in weapons range in 43 minutes. I strongly recommend we begin evasive maneuvers to avoid being surrounded. Negative, Minho replied firmly. Hold position exactly where we are. Let them come to us in whatever formation they choose. The more ships that attack us simultaneously, the better our response will be when we release their own energy back at them. Across the galaxy, every major civilization watched the approaching battle through long-range sensors and observation ships positioned at safe distances. The Galactic Council had declared this the most important military engagement in recorded history, and no one wanted to miss what might be either humanity's greatest triumph or their final moments. Communications Officer Tae-young received a priority transmission from Earth. Captain, Admiral Hanwoo sends word that our entire planet is watching and praying for our success. He also says that regardless of the outcome, humanity is proud of what we are attempting here today. The message carried the weight of an entire species' hopes and dreams. Earth had mobilized every defense they possessed, but everyone knew that if the Soul's Pride failed, nothing else would matter. The Void Swarm would consume the human homeworld and move on to their next target. The first wave of enemy ships opened fire while still millions of kilometers away, sending beams of concentrated destruction across space that could level continents. Each attack carried enough force to destroy A fleet of normal vessels, but the Soul's Pride was anything but normal. Here we go. Minho said quietly as the first enemy weapon struck his ship. All stations prepare for maximum energy absorption. This is going to be the most important battle in human history. The assault began gradually, then intensified as more ships joined the attack. Hundreds, then thousands of Void Swarm vessels poured their destructive power into eliminating the lone human ship that dared to stand between them and their target. Space around the Soul's Pride became a storm of dark energy and crushing force, but the human ship absorbed it all like a sponge soaking up water. Her Phoenix core drank in the enemy's power, converting it, storing it, preparing it for release. The more the aliens attacked, the brighter the Soul's Pride became as energy flowed through her hull in patterns of light. Phoenix core approaching maximum sustainable capacity, Dongwook reported, his voice filled with excitement. Energy levels are beyond anything we tested in simulations. Captain, we are going to be able to do more than just fight back. We are going to create a light show that will be visible from other galaxies. The Void Swarm ships increased their assault using weapons that had destroyed star systems and reduced entire civilizations to cosmic dust, yet the Soul's Pride continued to exist, growing more powerful with each passing second while her crew worked with calm precision. Sergeant Jinwoo watched his weapons display as targeting computers achieved lock on target after target. The list of enemy ships grew longer and longer until his screens showed firing solutions for thousands of vessels. Captain, I have confirmed target locks on all enemy ships within range. The Phoenix weapons are charged beyond maximum safe parameters. The moment had come. Minho looked around his bridge one final time, seeing the faces of his crew who had volunteered for a mission that everyone expected to be suicide. They had trained for years to reach this point, and now they were ready to defend their home world against impossible odds for Earth, he said simply, for humanity, for every peaceful species that has ever faced this threat. Fire everything we have. The Soul's Pride became a second sun, erupting with energy that had been stolen from the Void Swarm's own weapons and amplified beyond their ability to comprehend. Beams of pure destruction, brighter than stellar cores, erupted from every surface of the human ship, creating a web of annihilation that reached across millions of kilometers. Each beam found its target with mathematical precision, striking alien ships at their weakest points with power they had never imagined possible. The Void Swarm vessels, which had terrorized the galaxy for 1,000,000 years, began to disintegrate under an assault made from their own weapon. Ships that had conquered star systems simply vanished, converted into light and scattered particles by weapons powered by their own attacks. The three massive command ships at the center of the fleet tried to retreat, but Phoenix beams followed them across space, moving faster than their escape velocity. The destruction was total and absolute. In the span of 30 minutes, 800,000 Void Swarm ships were erased from existence, leaving nothing but expanding clouds of energized particles and the memory of the greatest military victory in galactic history. When the light finally faded, the Soul's Pride floated alone in space, surrounded by empty void where the enemy's fleet had been. Her hull still glowed with residual energy while her crew worked to process what they had accomplished. The battle was over. The Void Swarm, terror of the galaxy for over 1,000,000 years, had been completely destroyed by a single human ship that had turned their own unlimited power against them. As news of the victory spread across the stars, the galaxy realized that everything had changed forever. Humanity was no longer a minor species to be ignored or dismissed. They had become the civilization that achieved the impossible, saving not just their own world, but every world. The Void Swarm might have consumed the Soul's Pride, set course for home, her mission complete and her crew forever remembered as the humans who had shown the galaxy what fire could accomplish when properly directed against the darkness.